Chapter 4. All this waiting to catch sight of Jackie was wearing on me. He'd been my favorite player since Dad announced that I was old enough to start listening to Dodgers games with him on the radio. That was on my 8th birthday last June, during Jackie's rookie season. Dad said that would make me into a true Dodgers fan. Then maybe I could go see a game live at Ebbets Field. I'll never forget it. It was a warm Brooklyn summer night. Mom agreed that Dad and I could have dinner on the stoop. She fixed us a picnic meal of fried chicken, french fries, salad, and Kool-Aid. We ate with the small transitor radio between our plates. Dad sat on the top step. I took my position just below his knees. We turned the radio up loud, and I chewed softly. I didn't dare talk. By the time the game got underway, the porches of our neighbors were filled with eager Dodgers fans. A few women were scattered in folding chairs, supervising as kids played on the sidewalk. Part of me wanted to play, but my father's voice kept pulling me back to the game. Jackie Robinson is a rookie, Steve, Dad said. The Dodgers are in first place and drawing big crowds to Ebbets Field. Jackie's got a lot to do with that. He's batting over .300 and has 4 homers so far. He's been hit 6 times by pitchers and been insulted plenty just because he's a black man in a previously all-white game. Jackie hasn't let that pressure get to him. The whole country knows about Brooklyn now. We're special. That's something to be proud of, son. Dad stopped talking right when the announcer introduced Jackie. Then he said softly so we wouldn't miss a second of Jackie's at-bat. Listen closely now, Stevie. You'll hear what I'm talking about. I bent down until my right ear practically touched the plastic box. Jackie's hit got him on base, and within minutes he was threatening the pitcher from third base. Boy, is he fast, I thought. Jackie Robinson takes a large lead off third base, waits for the Pirates' Fritz Ostermuller to take the full windup, and breaks for home. I sat up straight. Tension permitted the hot air. I fixed my gaze on my dad's face, seeing the joy in it as Jackie stole home base for the first time in his Major League Baseball career. Dad jumped to his feet and lifted me high into the air. Our screams of joy were echoed throughout the neighborhood. At that moment, I knew Jackie Robinson was my guy. That was a year earlier. Since then, I'd read Jackie's book, My Own Story, and studied his baseball cards until I was an expert on Jackie's first year in baseball. The 1947 Dodgers were the first time that a racially mixed team ever played in the championship. Now, with the 1948 season looming, I wondered how Jackie would do this year. More important, I looked over at the house where Jackie was set to live. I wondered what he was really like. The closer I came to actually meeting Jackie Robinson, the more I worried I thought I'd be disappointed. I really wanted to like him and to have Jackie like me. But what if he was too busy to notice me? Or what if he saw me and didn't care to get to know me better? Was it even possible for a boy to have a famous man as a friend? I was driving myself nuts trying to figure out who Jackie was, so I decided to ask my mother, Mom, do you think Jackie's nice? We were cleaning up my room. Mom stopped vacuuming the rug and looked over at me. I guess so, she said. He's definitely a strong and courageous man. And a great baseball player, I added. He's going to play second base this year. Dad says that's his best position. I can't wait to go to Ebbets Field to see Jackie and Pee Wee work together. Your father told me last night that the Dodgers opening game is on April 20th against the Giants. The Dodgers home opener is April 23rd, Mom said. That's less than 2 weeks away, I exclaimed. Think Dad will take me to the Dodgers home opener? Not sure, Stephen, but keep up your good behavior at home and school and anything is possible, Mom replied. I'm doing my best, I said. Yes, you are, Mom agreed. Now put on your shoes and come down to the kitchen for breakfast. I followed my mother to the kitchen. Dad was already at the table with his newspaper in hand. We ate together since it was Saturday and I didn't have school, but my father had to work. Saturdays were Dad's busiest day. Mom and I were walking Dad to the stoop when I had an idea. Dad, you make and sell custom shoes, right? That's right, son. Do you think you can make a special shoe for Jackie? I bet he'd like that. A cleat that would protect him in case a mean player tried to spike him again? Dad told me once that players often slid into second base with their cleats pointing forward. It was dangerous and could lead to a serious injury for the second baseman. I didn't want to see Jackie get hurt. You know, Steve, that's a wonderful idea, Dad said as he waved goodbye. Mom and I picked the brightest cherry blossoms off the giant tree in our front yard. It was still too early to drop by the Robinsons, so we sat at the kitchen table and read the Archie comic strip. Mom and her friends liked the love triangle between Archie, Betty, and Veronica. I liked all the crazy things Jughead would do. While we cleaned up the kitchen, Mom chatted on and on about Mrs. Robinson. I could tell she was nervous about meeting a famous woman. You know, Steve, I admire Mrs. Robinson as much as you do her husband. She's so elegant and beautiful. I was a bit surprised that my mother had paid such close attention to Mrs. Robinson. I never heard her talk about any of the Dodgers' wives. She and Jackie met in college, Mom added. I read a story about them in Brooklyn Eagle last year. University of California, wasn't it? Jackie lettered in 4 sports at UCLA in just 1 year, I answered. He was a famous athlete even before he joined the Dodgers. I read his biography. And Mrs. Robinson is a nurse just like me. Mom, it's after 10, I whined. I was impatient to meet our new neighbors. Can we go? I was blown away when Mrs. Robinson opened their door and smiled at me. She is pretty, I thought, and nice. A little boy clung to her leg. I'm Sarah Satlow, and this is my son, Stephen. We live 2 doors down and wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood, Mom said. How nice of you, Mrs. Robinson replied. I'm Rachel, and this is my son. Jackie's a little shy right now, but give him a few minutes and he'll want to play. How old are you, Stephen? I turned 9 in June, I said, then peeked around Mrs. Robinson so I could see into the living room. There was no sign of Jackie Sr. Jackie is almost 2 and a half, Mrs. Robinson told me. Steve and I picked these from our tree for you, Mom said, handing Mrs. Robinson the bouquet of flowers. They're lovely, thank you. Sarah and Steve, Rachel said. Is Jackie? Stephen, Mom scolded me. I mean, Mr. Robinson at home? I asked. Mrs. Robinson chuckled. No, Steve, but I'll tell him that you stopped by. Are you a Dodgers fan? Yeah, you bet. Great. Would you like to go to a game with little Jackie and me this summer? You've got to be kidding. Would I ever? If I couldn't go to the Dodgers opening home game with Dad, at least I'd be able to go with Mrs. Robinson. Pretty cool, I thought. I'm serious, as long as your parents give you permission, Mrs. Robinson replied. Please forgive my son, Rachel. Steve and my husband, Archie, share a deep love for the Dodgers and for your husband. He's thrilled to meet you and a bit too excited to have you as a neighbor, my mother explained. I can imagine, Mrs. Robinson said, then gave me another warm smile. Jack and I love children. Sarah, you don't have to apologize. I'd invite you inside, but we're still unpacking boxes. Of course, I understand completely. It was lovely to meet you, my mother said, tapping me on her elbow. Nice to meet you, I echoed. Thank you for the warm welcome and beautiful flowers, Mrs. Robinson said. We'll see you soon. I was totally disappointed and didn't feel like pretending. My head was hanging low as we left the Robinsons' front yard, and all I could think of was, would I ever meet Jackie Robinson? Every day during the 2 weeks leading up to the Dodgers opening game, I woke up thinking this would be it. I decided that the only way I'd spot Jackie Robinson coming out of his house was to be visible. I came up with a plan. On Monday morning, I got up at 6, dressed for school, and had breakfast with my dad at 7 o'clock. That left me an hour before school to spot Jackie. I parked myself on our stoop, read the sports page, and kept my eyes on the red brick house 2 doors down. After school, I played stoop ball and finished my homework outside, waiting and hoping Jackie would come home while I was outside. No luck. Days passed without a single sighting. I can't believe he's 2 doors down and I haven't bumped into him, I vented to Sienna on our walk home from school one afternoon. Stephen J. Satlow, give it a rest, Sienna shouted at me. I was shocked. Didn't she get it? He was my hero. He was my neighbor. Spotting Jackie Robinson was the only goal. Speaking directly to him would be a bonus. My whole life depended on a handshake, a wave of a cap. Hearing Jackie say my name. Oh, Sienna, I replied in disgust. If you weren't a Yankees fan, you'd get it. The closer we got to the home opener, the more obsessed I became. The Robinson family had lived in the neighborhood almost 2 weeks, and I still hadn't spotted Jackie. The next thing I knew was April 20th, opening day. The Dodgers were opening the season on the road. Dad and I sat on the front porch listening to the first game of the 1948 season. The Dodgers are playing their crosstown rivals, the New York Giants, at the Polo Grounds. With Jackie on second and the newly acquired catcher